Hello, everybody. Hello, TJ. Nice to have you here. I'm Cedric, head teacher from INEA Yoga in Greece, Corfu, and I'm having a little chat with TJ, which is my Yin Yoga teacher, and I'm super grateful that I learned this wonderful practice. And I will ask him some questions about the Yin Yoga training, which will happen in our shala right behind me, the jungle shala. And TJ, who are you? Maybe you can introduce yourself briefly.
Yeah, the who am I question, that's a deeper question, but I'll give you some of my like backstory. So I teach Yin Yoga teacher trainings full time. I travel around the world to do that, not as much lately, but for obvious reasons. But before that, I managed a yoga studio and I ran the Yin Yoga and meditation programs for the studio. And then before that, I was a full-time school teacher. So I taught little kids art and really got accustomed to all the ins and outs of how teaching works. And before that, I was an artist. So I have a bachelor's and a master's degree in fine art.
And how did you got into Yin?
What is Yin Yoga and how I came to it? So Yin Yoga is basically like just a slow stretching form of yoga. And what I like most about it, so there's lots of different things you can talk about, like what it does for connective tissue and everything, but my two favorite things about it are what it does for the nervous system. It switches over to the rest and restore mode. So most of the time we're in fight or flight, or we're just stressed or tense. So Yin Yoga switches you over to that rest and digest or rest and restore, so you can kind of get that tension and stress and inflammation out of the body. And it gives you the ability to, if you practice enough, to really recognize that side of the nervous system. So you know when you're in one side or the other. You can identify it and you can determine, okay, I'm actually stressed out, I need to calm down or do some Yin Yoga or breathing. So it makes you more aware of that switch over. And the other thing I like about it is just body awareness. Like, people don't learn enough about their own bodies, which is, it's like you live inside this thing that it's kind of like owning a car and never learning anything about it. Like,
yes,
obviously
absolutely.
you don't have to be like a surgeon and understand like all of every little detail, but like most people don't even understand what their body's telling them on a regular basis on a daily level. So I really like how Yin Yoga gives people that reconnection to their body that they may have lost or never really explored. And that's really useful because, again, it tells you a lot of information about when you're stressed out, when you might be getting an injury or getting sick, way before when your body actually shuts down from those things. So you can actually do something to direct your health. And then as far as like how I got into Yin Yoga, I've always done yoga, like stretching, for long periods of time. I never did like really active forms of yoga. In fact, when I first learned from a book about sun salutations, I used to do them for like 5 minutes in each portion. So I didn't know that you're supposed to move quickly. So so I've always done Yin Yoga. I just never knew it was called Yin Yoga until I started reading books about it. And then it involves yin and yang, and that was something that interested me. And then it's slow stretching, and I love that. So I just dove into it as soon as I discovered what it was called.
Who were your teachers? Where did you learn Yin Yoga?
So one summer, I used to be a school teacher, and I had the summer off. And one summer, I studied with Bernie Clark in Vancouver. He wrote, yeah, that green book on Yin Yoga that most people know.
Yes.
And then Stephanie Calhoun in New Brunswick, Canada. She was a massage, or is a massage therapist, and so I did my 500 hour with her because there was a lot of anatomy depth. And then Corinna Benner, who is kind of like a hippie surfer girl kind of vibe in New York City, and she did a yin training that I attended all in one summer, so I just kind of dove in.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I'm so happy to have you here soon, hopefully, if the situation allows us.
Yeah, if the yin gods will have us.
Exactly. So I would like to ask you some questions about the training. that people get an idea what's going to happening in those 10 days here in Greece. So first of all, I can promise it will be a lot of sunshine. We can have beach and chilling mode every day, organic Greek food in the traditional tavernas, just harvested from the fields next to it. So the environment is set and it's super nice, beautiful. And now about the content. So how is a day looks like when we are in the teacher training with you? What do we do?
So each day is very structured and very similar. So it's a very comfortable routine that students can get used to what's going to happen each day. But then the content, of course, is very like diverse, and there's a big spectrum of different things that we study. So
Yes.
those go hand in hand. And the mornings usually start with a yin practice, which is usually about an hour. And the yin practice is for the students to just go deep and enjoy an experience of yin. But each day I do slightly different things the way I teach. So it gives students a bit of exposure to different approaches to teaching yin. And then after that, we do a sharing circle. And depending on how many students there are, sometimes that can be a bit longer, sometimes it's a bit shorter. But it's an opportunity.
Yeah, I remember. If I'm talking too much in the sharing circle, it gets long. But
Yeah.
this time I don't need to talk, maybe.
It's wonderful though. Like sometimes students share these like amazing kind of experiences they're having because we
No,
try
absolutely. I loved it. I loved it.
It's
Hopefully,
wonderful.
I didn't bother you too much.
No, I loved it. I remember the way you used to like hold yourself so calmly, and you would take a few breaths before you spoke, and then you
True.
would get into it. And I was like, whoa, this dude is really like zoned in. Like it was really interesting to watch you talk. But that's what's fun is each student you really get to know them, and so the community that we have in the group builds. And we get to talk about questions in general that people want to talk about or explore things that people are going through. Like some people get a spike in energy from all the yin yoga and they want to talk about that. And other people get a dip in energy and they want to talk about that. And so everybody's having a different experience from the same practice. And it's really like magical to just observe and share in the circle.
Yes, I agree.
And then after the circle, we get into either lecture study or asana study. Those are the two main kind of segments of the day. We're either studying a lecture with the projector, and I have like very visual slides that I use from my art background, or we're doing asana study, which is we have about 40 plus poses that we go through over the week, and we just kind of get through each of those about 10 to 15 minutes of practice and discussion about them. And that's pretty much the day. It kind of is broken up in that way, and we have a lunch break in the middle. And that's,
we have also breakfast in the morning.
Yeah.
So for everybody, we have 3 meals, just to make it clear, and we have nice dinner all together in the evening.
Yeah, I'm used to teaching this in studios where I just kind of send everybody out, but like, yeah, this will be
exactly. That's why I'm saying it. Yes.
Yeah, so like this will be much more community building, and the meals obviously will be kind of fit in with the content much more integrated.
So how many hours in total is it a day? Ish.
Yeah, it varies a little bit because I'm always teaching around different class schedules at studios. But roughly, it's usually about 7 to 9-ish per day.
Yeah.
And some trainings are 8 days and some trainings are 10 days. So the number is always a little bit slippery in my mind. But
yeah,
it's
it's okay. It's just
day.
roundabout. And in the midday, we have also a break. We have lunch, and you can go to have a bit of your own time to enjoy, like you as well, but also the people who join. Yeah.
And I'm always taking my cues. Since I used to be a school teacher, I used to teach little kids. I've gotten really accustomed to watching when people's eyes glaze over, or watching when their brains can't take anymore, and then we'll switch to something, or watching when their bodies seem to be getting tired from the practice, so we'll switch to something. So I adapt very much to the group in terms of like, we'll switch to the group in terms of like making sure everyone is staying balanced and focused in the ways they need to.
Cool. So I have another question. Could you elaborate a little bit more about what exactly topics you're teaching? So maybe go through all the topics and just quickly explain what's in there.
So we have about four or five like broad topics, and then each of those are broken down into smaller groupings. And this is all kind of based on like the lectures. So we have kind of lectures that are based on yin yoga very specifically. So they're really addressing, making sure everyone understands what yin yoga is and how it functions. Then we have lectures that are based around anatomy and really go in depth into anatomy. Not just like talking about yin related things like fascia, connective tissue, and anatomical variation, but we have like a lecture that goes really in depth into just like muscular anatomy and like where all the muscles are, because you need to know the targets of different poses. And then we have lectures that go into like, you call it subtle body, or I refer to it as like meditation kind of portion of the training. And I find this it makes the best yin teachers possible if you have at least some foundation and experience and understanding of what meditation is and how it works. So that's why it's integrated in. And we look at kind of primarily just meditation, what that is, and explore that. And then we look at, like, as I said, the subtle body things like chi, the meridians from like acupuncture meridians, and chakras. So, and then we have a breath lecture as well. So we kind of look at those aspects of the body and practice and how those can kind of integrate with yin yoga. And then there's the teaching portion. So as a previous school teacher, I really enjoy talking about and analyzing teaching as a skill itself. So not just repeating things that your teacher taught you, but actually learning the mechanics of how to teach anything. And so I really like going into that. There's some philosophy kind of sprinkled throughout. And so that is kind of a topic in and of itself. And so that's kind of the broad overview, and each of those has like a lot of smaller things that we get into.
Yeah, cool, TJ. You wrote actually a book, and maybe you can give us a brief overview of
Yeah.
your passion, what's behind this topic of your two books. You wrote two now, huh?
One is finished, and I'm always working on additional ones.
Okay. Okay. So what is it about? And yeah, tell me a bit.
So the book is Yin Nuance, and it's the it's teaching. It's a book about teaching and practicing Yin yoga, and I wrote it for a couple of reasons. For one, I realized a lot of the books don't so much talk, they're not for teachers so much. I mean, they're for teachers in the sense that they might be a reference book and whatnot, but they don't so much get into teaching. They're more about exploring what yin yoga is, what the poses are, how it works, which obviously is useful to teachers. But I wanted something that spoke to teachers, since that's what I do all the time. And so I kind of, after teaching this training several times, I started to realize there was a lot of stuff I talked about that wasn't in the lectures. It was just stuff I talked in response to the lectures. And so I started kind of putting chapters together based on a lot of that information. And so it's a book that's basically like, each chapter is about a page, and it just goes through a lot of different like subtle aspects to understanding, or ways to understand yin yoga, or things to talk about or bring your students awareness to as a teacher. So it's kind of more in line with like the Tao Te Ching and like philosophy and kind of things to think about. But it goes into a lot of things that can be very practical for just practice, for advanced practitioners like teachers, or beginner practitioners who are trying to wrap their head around this. So I tried to make it a nice, concise book that could be easily flipped through, but also like used as a reference for topics to talk about if you're a yin teacher. And yeah, that's the best way I can to summarize it, because it touches on so many things.
Yeah, I'm actually a big fan also of those cards. You created those postcards. with each card has a poster on it, and on the back you can make your own notes and write all the targets and stuff like that. And I use them always when I teach. I just build my sequence with those cards, and I'm such loving them. It's cool.
Yeah, I was so happy with the way the cards turned out, because as a teacher, I always like to create tools that are useful for teachers, and I
That's
find those
useful.
are as well. I actually just hired an artist. He finished designing or redrawing every asana. So the next batch of cards is going to be like
Drawn.
hand illustrated. Yeah,
Oh,
it's
okay, I'm
gonna
looking
they're
forward.
beautiful.
So there's another question. Does people get something like a handout or a PDF from the teaching so they can remember later on what they learned?
Yeah, there's so much content actually, and as like I went to art school, so like making visual content is just something I do all the time. And so there's the book, of course, the Asana deck of cards that you mentioned, and then they get PDFs of all of the lectures, and there's 8 lectures. So they have the visuals of everything that they'll see in the training. And then I give
Yeah.
them PDFs of everything else that I have available. So the old manual, they get a PDF of that. And there's some other like smaller like supplemental materials I've designed that they get PDFs of as well. And then once they graduate, everyone who is a graduate becomes part of the Yinfinite family, I call it. I use a lot of yin puns. And anybody that's in that group gets access to all future updates to the lectures. So you'll kind of have lifetime access to anytime I update the lectures, which I just did. So they're all new designs. So students from last year or the previous years have access or will have access
Yeah.
to the new designs for the lectures with some new content in them. So it's kind of a neat thing I like to add.
There is a thing called Corona or something similar. I'm not sure, but let's talk about worst case. So if you're not able to come, everybody who books this training will get a kind of voucher to do the training the next possible time, which could be in the spring of next year or summer, like the same time but a year later, or an online training. So we would like then just to discuss with the people together, like, it's not possible, what can we do, what do you want?
No, I like the idea of the voucher. I like to do anything I can to support students that are interested in this and make sure that it's I want people to have peace of mind. That's my highest priority in my life for myself. My peace of mind, and I want my students to have that. That's why I teach Yin. So anything we can do to make them feel comfortable registering and knowing that they're going to get what they sign up for one way or another. At some point they'll have options available to them, and
Yeah.
so even if it doesn't work out right now, like we were just talking about before the video, we're going to be regularly doing this in Greece with you guys. I'm really excited to get there, so it's going to happen, and then it's going to happen each year after that. And then as far as online trainings, I found that they work so much better than I ever could have anticipated. And you don't take my word for that. Like I can give references of the students who have taken the online training, and I'm blown away by how well it went.
TJ, thank you so much for your time. I think we talked about everything that people need to know, and if we let out something, just come up to me, reach me, write me an email, or use the chat on the website. And yeah, thank you so much for joining and coming soon.
Yeah, thank you. I'm so excited to get out there, and really looking forward to meeting everybody that joins us. And feel free to reach out to me as well if anyone has questions about content or anything at all. I love chatting with students, and can schedule voice chats or video chats or just responding to email. So you can reach out through INEA and Cedric, and he can direct you to me, or you can find me directly as well if you like. I'll let you head back to the ocean now.
Thank you. Okay. Enjoy your day.
Talk to
Bye
you later,
bye.
Cedric.